Hello everyone, my name is Chandan and I welcome you again to my channel. This is the 17th video in TestNG tutorial series, and what we are going to see today is what is invocation count in TestNG. Alright, so let's open Eclipse and see what it is. Alright, so if you remember, if you have been following my videos, this is the same project that I have been using, and within which I have src folder, within which I have a new package created for this particular video. The package name is invocation count, and I have a class added to the package. If you see here, I have a method test01, and all it is doing is it is printing a statement I'm in test01. All right, so what if I want to print this statement multiple times? Okay, one way is we can print the same line again and again as many times as we want, right? So say for example I want to print it for 6 times, right? So I can do this like this, and I can add TestNG test annotation, and if I run this, this will print 6 times. Okay, let me just quickly run just to verify everything. Okay, all right, so if you see here, we have executed the same line of code. I mean, we have printed I'm in test01 multiple times. But if you know, this is not the right way of coding. The reason is we are not following the best practices of coding. The thing is, we are not following dry principle. With dry principle, I mean, do not repeat yourself, right? So when we have a line of code which is being repeated, that is not considered as a good practice of coding. So what shall we do? In that case, we have an attribute provided by TestNG to repeat a particular test multiple times. Okay, so this is one test, right? Because we have annotated it with test annotation, and we are going to execute this particular test multiple times. Okay, so we have to use a attribute provided by TestNG, and the attribute name is invocation, sorry, count. All right, so this is the attribute which will help you to repeat a task as many times as you want. So if you want to print it for 6 times as we did earlier, all you have to do is you have to add the number with this attribute. All right, this is it. Okay, now let me run this test again. Right click, run as TestNG test, and if you see here, it has printed the same number of times. So I'm in test01 6 times. All right, if we go here, see the result, everything is passed, and you can see here that it was printed 6 times. 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, so this is what is invocation count. Now invocation count is also used to run your test multiple times but in parallel. Okay, so you have, since we are repeating this 6 times, right? So it's not I mean, you can do it, but when we are repeating things, it is always good to run them in parallel. The reason is that will save us a lot of time. All right, so let's quickly check how do we achieve that. Now if you have seen the last video that I created, that is on parallel testing, how do we achieve parallel testing in TestNG, where I have explained you the concept of thread, right? Thread size, thread count. So we are going to use the same concept here. All right, so along with invocation count, all right, since we are going to run it in parallel, so we will need thread. Okay, so I'm going to provide another attribute for the test, and the attribute name is thread pool size. All right, so let me just, okay, now say for example, uh, let's give the thread as equal to the invocation count. Okay, so in that means this particular test will be provided 6 different thread, all right, for this particular method. So that means this method will have 6 thread, okay, to execute the test. And it, since this will be executed 6 times, okay, so each of the execution will use one of the thread. Okay, so six execution will have 6 threads, so one-to-one mapping will be there. Let's run and see. Right click, run as TestNG test. All right, so if you see here, these are the number of, I mean, it has executed, printed the same number of lines again. But how do I know that they are running parallelly? All right, so we saw in the last video that if you want to check if they are being run parallelly, all we have to do is we can add the details line, we can add the thread ID, right? So let's add that. Let me just thread ID equals to, and let me print that we are going to use thread class thread dot current thread dot get ID. All right. So this will print the ID that this particular test is using while execution. All right. So let me just run this again and see what is the thread it is picking up. Okay. Now if you see here, the thread that it has picked up are 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 6 threads were used. The reason is we have initialized 6 threads, right? So that's the reason why it has used all the 6 threads and they all were executed. So in case we have 3 threads, in that case it will use only 3 threads, and all this 6 method, execution, 6 execution, since we are repeating, invocation count is 6. So the 6 execution will use only 3 different threads. All right. So let's quickly go and run this and check. Run as TestNG test. Okay. Now if you see here, we have 13, 14, and 15, 3 different threads. All right. Not extra. All right. So this is how we execute a test multiple times. Okay. But if you want to execute them in parallel, in that case you have to use this attribute thread pool size equals to 3. All right. This is not very common, but yes, in case there is a need to execute some set of action, or you want to execute a piece of test multiple times, all you have to do is just add this particular attribute to test annotation test, or and that you will be done. I mean, you should be able to run that many times. And also, if you want to execute those tests or set of action multiple times but in parallel, then you have to use this thread pool size attribute as well, and you are free to choose any, the number of threads that you want. So this is all about in this video. Okay. And we will meet you, I will meet you in the next video. All right. So till then, you have a good time. This is a short one, I know, compared to the videos that I generally have. They are quite long, but this is something which is quite interesting. So that's why I wanted to cover it up. All right. So you have a good time ahead. See you in the next video.